Welcome to the Hopkins Approach. My name is Charles Slife, and I represent Ward 17 on Cleveland City Council, which includes Cleveland Hopkins International Airport. And I am the Vice Chair of City Council's Transportation and Mobility Committee, which oversees a lot of the operations of the airport on the City Council side. I'm joined by my colleague, Carrie McCormick.
Hi everyone, Carrie McCormick, also with Cleveland City Council. I represent Ward 3, which is downtown in the near west side of the city, and also chair our Transportation and Mobility Committee covering the airport.
Right. Thanks for being here. And we are here outside of the airport's fire station today, joined by Director Brian Francis, the Director of Port Control. Good morning, Director.
Good morning to you both. Yeah. Thank you for the opportunity to have a discussion about Hopkins today. Really appreciate that.
Thank you. And also Dennis Kramer, who leads airport development here at Cleveland Hopkins.
Morning.
Hey, Dennis.
Good to see you.
So, all right, Director, if kind of just kick us off, everybody, most people of us, we've been to the airport, we see the planes flying, but a lot of people aren't aware of just how dynamic of an asset Cleveland Hopkins International Airport is, not just for the city, but for the entire region. So kind of at a high level, give us some details about our great airport.
Certainly. So I'll give you a bit of a historical perspective of Cleveland Hopkins. Actually, next year, 2025, will be the airport's 100th birthday.
Happy birthday, airport.
Yes, summer 25. So we're really excited about that. The fact that this airport has been in existence for nearly 100 years obviously speaks to a great amount of history and contribution to the overall development of Northeast Ohio. And so this airport actually was the first municipal airport established in the country. So that's one distinction. We also led the nation in terms of implementation of technology in a couple of different areas, one of which is being the first to have a radio-equipped air traffic control system. And then also we were the first airfield to have a lighting system in place. So a couple of great things that we led the way on, if you will. Also, we were the first airport in the U.S. to have public transportation, public rail transportation from the airport to the city center. So lots of firsts here at Cleveland Hopkins, and we're very, very proud of that. In terms of what's happening at the airport today, we are doing very well in terms of activity, passenger activity. Things are getting busier here, and we're offering more and more opportunity for those who need to travel by air, where they're coming in, as far as our visitors, as well as our residents who need to travel out. So things are going very well, and we're excited about the future.
That's really great. So, Director and Dennis, we hear a lot about what's in the future for the city of Cleveland and for the airport here. I understand that you guys have a bold and aggressive plan to update our terminals here at Cleveland Hopkins Airport. So can you speak a little bit about the first phase of that terminal modernization plan and what folks should be looking for as we really look to upgrade our airport?
Certainly. So I'll speak a bit, and then I'll turn it over to Dennis and let him elaborate further. So our terminal originally opened in 1955. And so that's the portion that you pull up in front of for departures, for arrivals. So our ticketing lobby, our baggage claim area, that portion of the facility opened in 1955. And so much has changed in terms of air travel since then. And we have also grown in a lot of ways in terms of how the airport serves the community. And essentially what we're needing to do is to modernize our facilities to meet the travel needs of our users, not just for today, but certainly for tomorrow, for decades to come. As I mentioned, passenger activity is going very well right now. We are expecting to see somewhere around 10.4 million total passengers in 2024. And so this will be the best year since 2019, that being the last full year of business prior to the COVID-19 pandemic. And that was just over 10 million passengers for the year. So we are surpassing that. Each of the last 10 months have surpassed the respective months in 2019. So we're certainly going in a positive direction. But that really lends itself to a need to modernize to meet the needs of travelers in the future. And so we're looking to touch virtually every aspect of the customer experience at Hopkins. That is going to take a period of years in order to complete, but we are well underway with the planning aspects of that initiative. We're calling it the Terminal Modernization Development Program, or TMDP, and I'll let Dennis speak a little bit further on where we are and what's coming up.
Awesome. So Dennis, I love our airport because it's easy to get to, it's easy to navigate, it's approachable. It's not one of those massive airports where you take a train to a train to a train to an elevator. But we all know that, the airport could use some updates. So can you give us a little bit more details on what's in plan?
Sure, absolutely. Well, I'll go back a little bit in time. There's a lot been happening the last few years on the planning efforts and implementation planning. We originally started our master plan process back in 2019, and just a lot of work been going on behind the scenes to get us prepared to where we are today. Like you said, we do have a great airport here, but our big problems are really where we're constrained with spaces, right? We need larger security screening areas, larger hold rooms, just larger areas to accommodate the number of passengers we're seeing today. And so that's our main focus, is bringing forward this program to modernize the facility to meet today's demands of the passengers. We had a big win earlier this year when our airline partners agreed to fund the first $175 million tranche of funding for the program. And that includes a lot of different things, a lot of enabling type work, and more of the planning efforts and preparing for some of the larger projects that are coming down the pike. We were going to get to about this program definition phase, about 15% design is what we're looking to do with this $175 million. Some of these other enabling projects are some more surface parking over by Concourse D we're looking at doing. A bunch of demolitions are going to happen. We're looking very soon here to start demolishing the Sheraton Hotel, which opens up the old Sheraton Hotel, which opens up a lot of space. So really a big win earlier this year when we got that first $175 million, and it really is going to enable us to continue our work and continue to plan for these much bigger projects that are coming to modernize all of our facilities.
Thank you, Dennis. So the functional aspects of the airport will be updated, added parking, things like that. But when the plan is complete, I would imagine folks are going to notice a difference too in their airport experience. Is that correct?
So I can speak a bit to that. That is absolutely true. Essentially, we're going to transform the experience for our customers who are flying into and out of Cleveland Hopkins. There will be virtually no aspect of the experience that will not be touched and greatly improved upon. So that's something I'm very much looking forward to. One thing I would say is that it is not going to happen quickly.
You still got to operate the airport.
As much as I wish I could do like that, snap of the fingers and we're finished, that's just not possible for us. We are not one of those airports that happens to be land rich and where we can build a new facility next door on the other side of the field, and overnight we can move out of the existing terminal and into the new one. So our option really is it's like renovating your house while you're still living in it, except this is a much bigger house than most people's homes, right? So we will have to take an approach whereby we phase the programming of the work, and that will mean it will take time. It will take a number of years. We're expecting to get going in the middle part of this decade, very relatively soon, with early elements of the program, but it's going to extend into the early 2030s for sure, because again, we can't just build next door, move overnight, and we also can't close the terminal down and say come back in 2 or 3 years. So that's going to be the approach. It will be painful, and there's no way around that. However, what we're going to do is everything we can to minimize the level of pain and also to minimize the timeline to the extent possible from start to finish of all the work that we have before us.
Councilman Slife, I know you've got a burning question.
I'm just eager to hear more because, a generation from now, it's going to be exciting to come to this essentially fully rebuilt airport. And as you said, Director, construction projects are certainly inconvenient, but they're critically important. So I'm wondering, along the way, as passengers are flying in and out of Hopkins, can you give some examples of some of the things that they might see that are kind of visual cues of different stages of the terminal master plan. And also, I can't, ask the question without asking for some comment on the bathrooms, because one of the challenges we do have is that the bathrooms aren't just designed for the size they need to be to accommodate this many passengers. So I know there's been some early wins there and more plans to come with renovating the bathrooms throughout the terminal.
That's correct. So we early this year began a restroom refresh project. That's what we're calling it, where we are essentially gutting 13 of the restrooms, the public restrooms inside of the terminal facility, and everything is being replaced. The floors, the walls, the lighting, the fixtures, everything inside of those spaces is being replaced. We have already reopened one set of restrooms. The second set is currently underway with the refresh and should be opening by the end of the summer. And then that process will continue. There are a total of 5 areas of restrooms that are part of this project, and we're looking to have that effort completed probably by late spring 2025. So that's one thing that is ongoing. But you're right, one thing we're not doing is enlarging the spaces themselves. That's much more involved. Would take a lot more time and a lot more budget. So what we're doing right now is refreshing the existing spaces and modernizing them and providing, I believe, a much better experience for the customers. So that's certainly one thing that passengers would see today. Going forward, it really depends on how we approach the overall TMDP, but I would expect you're likely going to begin seeing some changes on the land side early on. We are going to be looking at additional parking. I've spoken to the fact that the parking needs are inadequate for the level of traffic that we see today. So as Dennis mentioned, we do intend to create parking adjacent to Concourse D, but we're also looking to add additional parking out in the front of the airport, sort of in the area of the Orange Lot and the Sheraton site. So we'll be looking at potentially building a parking deck, parking garage out there that will give us additional parking options and more capacity for the customers. And then you're likely going to see some changes with the head house facility in terms of the ticketing and the baggage claim, the TSA. So it will happen in phases. We're still really working out all the details of that in terms of sequence. But I would think that the first area where people will begin to see things physically happening is on the front of the airport, or what we call the land side.
And that's great to hear. And I think it's worth reminding that historically Hopkins did function as a hub airport. So a significant proportion of passengers flying in and out weren't really coming to or leaving from Cleveland.
Correct.
And so they never needed the ticketing hall. But at this point, we are seeing hub level passenger counts as a non-hub airport, which means that we have 10 plus million people passing in and out of that ticketing hall every year. Improving that space on the forefront of the project, I think, will go a great way towards passengers really understanding what we are trying to do at the City of Cleveland to enhance the entire airport.
Absolutely. That's a very important point, and I appreciate you mentioning that, Councilman. In the days of the hub, about 40% of the passengers were simply getting off of one flight and taking another. So they never left the air side of the facility, the gate areas, the concourses. But today, 100% of our passengers are beginning or ending their journeys right here in Cleveland. And so that changes the complexity in terms of the needs for the facilities and the capacity of those facilities. And so one of the areas that we're going to be looking closely at is what can we do in terms of increasing the capacity at the TSA screening checkpoints. That's within the existing facility. There are some space constraints there, but we're looking into that right now. And depending on the results of the analysis that is underway, we would hope to have some improvements in place middle of next year. But yeah, today there's about 70% more people that are going through the main terminal than we would have seen at the peak of the hub days 15 or so years ago. So it's very different. I think that many of our users don't realize that and don't realize what additional strain that puts on a facility that hasn't changed in terms of its footprint. It's no bigger now than it was then. except the demands on it are much greater. And so that's one of the things that we're looking to solve for as part of the TMDP.
Right. So, a lot of our questions and interest is around the passenger experience, but there's also a lot of conversations happening about the airport operations. So I know Carrie wants to talk a little bit about some of the airport operations stuff to show that this is really a holistic conversation.
Yeah, thank you, Councilman. I mean, a great point. Obviously, the things that passengers may notice would be bathrooms and the ticketing and all of that, but we rely on a good relationship with our airline partners who service the airport. So can you speak to how the modernization plan for our terminals will support an enhanced airline operations here, which we know, of course, if the better partner we are to the airlines, the more direct flights and others that could come down the line. So we want to be a good partner. So how does this help with airline operations, this modernization plan?
Should I speak a bit to that, then?
Sure. Well, if I may, I want to go back just a little bit too on some of the, we've been talking a lot about the longer term stuff that we want to do, right? But we're also trying to be very strategic on some of the shorter term initiatives. Brian mentioned the bathrooms, right? But there's a lot of other stuff going on with just small little things to try to improve the customer experience that aren't large investments, because we're trying to be very strategic about that. Because we know we're going to be making large investments in newer facilities and renovated facilities. So, replacing carpet in certain areas, LED lighting in certain areas, different new technologies to make the customer experience better. So I just wanted to make sure we touched on that a little bit too, because we're doing a lot of that and we're just trying to be very strategic about where we invest those dollars now, so it's not affecting any of the long term or anything like that too. And then, again, touching on the operational side of things, we're working on a handful of FAA grants right now that are more airfield related. We're working on a project to replace, do a wildlife fence, the perimeter wildlife fence around the entire airport. We've been adding guardrail around the airport for enhanced security. A lot of behind the scenes, technology updates in terms of security. Can't really get into that too much, but, cameras and different newer technologies to make sure that we have a very safe and secure facility. A lot of operational things. Partnering with our airlines last year, or actually earlier this year, we brought on a new, what's called a common use passenger processing system, right?
And we saw that in council committee.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. That's right. And so that, again, that is us, bringing those behind the scenes type of technologies to our operation to work better with our airlines and have a more efficient operation. Recently at council, we brought to you all a common use gate management system. Again, it's a kind of behind the scene things, technology that just helps us operate better and more efficiently as an airport and with the airlines.
Yeah, and I would assume, Director, too, that our airline partners are at the table helping us help that in a way in these conversations.
Absolutely. We are meeting regularly with all of the airline partners, our signatory air carriers, specifically those who have a longer term agreement with the airport. So we are meeting with them on a monthly basis to talk specifically about the TMDP and all of the components of that effort. And then also sort of on a parallel path, we're talking about business terms as it relates to the next airline use and lease agreement, because the current agreement ends at the end of 2025. So 1/1/26, we need to have a new lease in place that will serve us for several years. And so those are sort of the parallel dual paths that we're on right now with our airline partners. And one thing I also wanted to speak on, and Dennis may be able to elaborate further, is back of house. So behind the scenes, and specifically the baggage handling system. That's something that most travelers don't think anything about. They relinquish their bag at ticketing when they check in for their flight.
And then go to get their sandwich.
Something magic happens. It's out of the other side.
Right, and so they see it disappear on the belt there, and hopefully when they get to the other end in a few minutes at that arriving airport, there's their bag again. But there's a lot that happens behind the scenes with those bags in terms of making it from the ticket lobby to the aircraft. And we're going to be making some interim improvements to the existing baggage handling system It does have some pain points right now, especially because of the volumes of baggage that the system is seeing today. Again, with those passenger levels surpassing 10 million and with all those passengers being local, beginning or ending their journeys here. So we'll be making some improvements to the existing system in the near term, and then certainly going forward, we'll be looking to create a completely new, replaced baggage handling system that will have higher capacity and greater technology to be more efficient for us as we grow in
Thank
demand.
you. Director, I appreciate that. I know the councilman is very concerned about sustainability too. Before I pass it over to him, I think just taking a quick second, if I'm a resident watching this and I say, oh my gosh, $3 billion plan, am I paying that through my taxes? Can you give us the 20 seconds on how the airport is paid for in general?
Sure. So we are what's called an enterprise fund. And what that means is that our operating dollars are generated through fees that are assessed on airport. So if you're using the airport, you're contributing to the operation of the airport. But we do not use any general fund dollars from the city of Cleveland or any other local jurisdiction. We are completely self-sustaining, and that's an important point to make. So I appreciate you asking about that. It's probably a misconception, and understandably so, that if we're a city department, well, that likely means that we are tied into the taxpayer system some way, somehow. But no, all of the user fees that are established here, whether it's being assessed to the airlines through their terminal rental rate or their landing fees, or through the many tenants that we have that are leasing facilities, or parking, or the concessions program and the percentage of those sales for retail, food and beverage, all of those funds are going towards the operation of the airport each year. And then the shortfall between what we can generate on our own, which is non-airline revenue, and what it actually takes to operate the airport, that gap is covered by our airline partners through the signatory agreement.
So, Councilman, I know we got a plane taking off right behind us, so I think we're going to be able to get a minute to see a United flight heading somewhere. Hopefully,
Heading somewhere good.
Cancun, somewhere fun. But I wanted to get over to you too, Councilman. I know our committee is really concerned about sustainability too.
Sure, and you know, before touching on sustainability, it's worth reminding and learning how the airport's funded, because it's a two-pronged story to me. One, taxpayers are paying for the airport, but two, the airport's providing all of these job opportunities, whether it's directly with the city of Cleveland, through the airlines, through the different concessionaires. And before we wrap up, we should touch on opportunities for employment at the airport.
Absolutely.
And especially as we're talking about a multi-billion-dollar master plan, there's going to be so many opportunities for people. But I know as we've planned the airport's modernization, sustainability has been a focus of everything the city of Cleveland does, and the airport is no exception to that. And you know, the airport really is, it's the size of a city. It has all of these people, it has all of these cars moving, and it uses electricity. So there's, I think, a lot of exciting opportunities to build sustainability into the airport in a way that maybe is toughed out because of its age. So if you could touch on some of the sustainability aspects.
So, we are in an airport, right?
Give it a minute.
So sustainability is incredibly important to us here at Cleveland Hopkins. It's something that we have top of mind, and that we certainly are keeping at the forefront of all of our planning efforts surrounding the PMDP. We actually have brought on board a member of our team whose sole focus is around sustainability. We have created a sustainability committee that's going to be working on implementation of the Sustainability Master Plan, which is currently underway. I think it'd be great to have Dennis speak a little bit further on that.
Yes, and just recently, you know, that committee has really kicked off their work. We have brought on a consultant within the last few months. Again, something we brought to you all at council, and hired this consultant. They have a lot of different environmental responsibilities, but one of the main aspects of our consultant's work is sustainability, helping us with our sustainability coordinator, building our sustainability master plan, And again, that'll guide our design as we move into TMDP, and it'll guide the operations of the airport moving forward. So taking a holistic look at our operation and setting goals for where we want to be with sustainability and what we want to do and where we want to get to. So a lot of work, again, kind of behind the scenes on all of that to get us to, being a leader, really. Our goal is really to be a leader in the airport aviation industry in sustainability. So making strong efforts to get there.
Yeah, so Director, you were brought on here in the airport system as an innovator, someone who's overseen various airports, been involved in this type of work. Yeah, you've been passed the torch to take over the modernization plan of our terminals. So we know that we talked a little bit earlier about how you're already going to start to see some prep work, for lack of a better term. Talk to us, though, about some of the challenges that you might see coming ahead and how you plan on navigating those.
Great question. So thank you. I would say among the biggest challenges is going to be the fact that we are expecting to continue seeing more and more passengers coming through the doors while our facility continues to age. Mm-hmm. And we work as best we can to keep up with that pace of aging and increased utilization, and then simultaneously planning for the implementation of the TMDP elements. So that combination and the fact that you're spanning probably 8 years or so of continuous construction, so it's going to be really important for us to communicate early and often with all of our users, and that includes everyone who is working at the airport, all of our business partners, to understand what's coming next, what they can expect, the timeline for that work. And I think just through having that communication openly, freely, regularly, it will help the overall process, because people will understand what's coming and why. And at the end of the day, what we're really after is creating a facility that all of us can be extremely proud of and happy to use. And that's a fantastic combination. That's what we're striving for, in addition to all the technological sort of components that we're looking to incorporate. So we want to create the best possible traveler experience that we can, and that's what we intend to do over these next several years through the TMDP.
Thank you. And I would imagine, too, as airports go through these renovations, we're not the only one.
Correct.
Right? That goes through a long period of time. But at the end of the day, you're renovating the kitchen in the house, or maybe the whole house, but at the end of the day, you're going to love your house, right? So that's
Absolutely.
The point. Councilman, you noted earlier a little bit about, we talked about employment. Critically important here for the city of Cleveland and for our residents, employment opportunities, right?
Sure, and so I want to make sure the listeners know at clevelandairport.com, right? If you go to that website, you can learn more about all the different job opportunities at the airport, because there's the Department of Port Control, the city of Cleveland running the airport, but then there's also jobs with all of the airlines, all the different concessionaires. There's cargo all around the airport. This really is a regional economic driver for all of Northeast Ohio, and there's just jobs galore that are available. So please, if you're interested, go to clevelandairport.com, because a passion point of mine and Councilman McCormick is to make sure not only that this airport grows and thrives for the city and the region, but that we're doing so in a way that is bringing along residents of the city of Cleveland and affording them the opportunity to have a good, stable job at a growing, exciting facility. So with that, I want to take a moment just to thank the firefighters and the paramedics that let us camp out here at the fire station, and also to thank you, Dennis, Director Francis, and your entire staff who works every day, day in and out, behind the scenes to keep this airport thriving. This has been a really fun conversation, and I hope that you all enjoyed it and that you'll join us next time for the Hopkins Approach.
Thank you.
Thank you.